Hello and welcome back to the Boat Shed. My name is John and this is the Sailboat Antidote. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the rotten plywood decks on this boat, and if you're here to the end of the video you're going to get a review on this tool, so stick around. Well, we're still taking the core material out from the bow section like we were working on last video. Now it's no fun working on your hands and knees, so I'm going to set the scaffolding here and then I'll be able to work from a nice standing height. Let's get going. Continuing to work on the bow here, removing the plywood core, the rotten core. You can probably see at the very bow, there is what looks to be an old repair, and we're going to be opening that up, taking a look at that. And I'm removing the rail right now just so I can work from below on some scaffolding a little easier without craning my neck. So let's get going on all that. Quick safety warning, it's always dangerous when you're working up on the deck of a sailboat when it's on the hard, as well as anytime you're on scaffolding. These are risks I'm knowingly taking. Don't try this at home. Once again, it's the cat's paw and the chisel that really made this job possible. You can see here that we have this channel totally evacuated of all the old rotten plywood. So we've just got a little bit of cleanup in here to do, some sanding, and then we'll be ready to put some new material back in. I thought while we're up here, we'll take a look at this halted deck joint, try and break some of this material free and see what's going on there. A few of you have asked what's happening behind here. I do detect a bit of moisture according to the moisture meter readings. So yeah, I'm a little scared to have to dig into that. We'll see though. Let's take a look. So the consensus on this halted deck joint material, this is what we're looking at here. It's sort of like a clay consistency. It's very brittle. It appears to be resin with no filler in it. No glass in it, no silica, no fibers of any sort, just the pure resin, and it's very brittle. And that's probably what was inside the bulwarks there for around those cleats as well. So this kind of all adds up. So probably when they finished that halted deck joint, they just poured a bunch of resin in and skimmed off the top and called it good. So we're gonna have to figure out a way to fix this. So here we can see that they've added this bulky layer of chop strand. This is where the stem head fitting mounts. So I think we need to cut all this out. As I suspected, the wet wood goes all the way to the very bow of the boat. This is still physically wet to the touch. You can actually see a little bit of water coming through on my gloves. And this just popped out. I mean, I just used my hands to pull that right out. Now up here, it's a little tricky to leave the right amount of overhang like we've been doing. This is gonna require a little bit of extra attention to sculpt all this out. I'll probably have to do a lot of sanding up here, but I will be able to remove the core, I hope, and replace it with something that won't be susceptible to water intrusion. So let's keep going. Oh, that piece came right out. Alright, I am happy to announce that there is no more wood in the deck core from the bow to where the windlass is. That was pretty intense, a lot of effort to get that out. Hopefully it gets a little easier as we go back and the deck gets a little wider. We'll see. Well, if you're enjoying today's video so far, I would really appreciate if you would consider leaving a like. It really does help this video get out to see more people. Thank you very much. Finally, no more rod and plywood at the bow of this boat. That feels really good. Now let's take a second. I'm going to give you an honest review of this tool. This is the Fein Composite cutting blade. I've got a few minutes on this thing now, or a couple hours honestly. It's great. It works really well. It doesn't cut as fast as, let's say, you're using a woodworking oscillating blade. It'll outrun that in the long run because the woodworking blade will cut fast for 20 seconds and then it's going to be dull like you've seen in a previous video. And if you want to see that review, you can watch this video here. This is going to hold the course for a lot longer. So far it hasn't slowed down at all. It releases a predictable amount of dust. You can control that well with a vacuum nearby, and it's very accurate. It's easy to control because it is an oscillating blade as opposed to a spinning blade. So I'm very happy with this and I'm going to continue to use this. This is probably going to be my primary tool for cutting fiberglass for a while. So Andy from Boatworks today, thank you for the tip on that. So on the topic of tools, I've got something else I want to show you. Let's take a look. As I've been extracting that rod and plywood core from the deck of Antidote, this 3/4 inch chisel has proved to be a very valuable tool, but now the edge of it is getting rather dull. I'm using this to clean out the wood, and I'm also using it to sort of scrape the bottom skin of the fiberglass just to remove that last bit of wood, and it's starting to become a little more difficult, and I can feel with my finger that it's not as sharp as it used to be. I like to sharpen my chisels by hand as opposed to using a grinder just because it gives you a little bit more control. Maybe I'm a bit of a control person. This jig here, this is the Veritas sharpening jig for chisels. It'll also do hand plane blades, other things like that. This thing is amazing. It's great at setting up the right angle, securing it, and then helping you get it sharpened. And I use a couple of whetstones, combination 4,000, 1,000 I think, yeah. And then this little smaller one is sort of more for rough cuts. So let's go ahead and put a decent little bevel on this, give us a bit more service. This part of the jig here is for setting up your angle. So right now we're on setting 2, and that equates to a 25-degree angle on the chisel. So all we do now is we open it up, slide the chisel in, line it up along this sort of fence here, slide it until it just touches that locator pin. Then I can back this off and just see how we did, just for the angle. So that's 25 degrees. All right, so we're ready to go here. Right on. One last thing to remember is this little rotating pin down here actually sets the eccentric on the roller. By setting it like that is actually raising it a little bit. That's for putting a micro bevel on. You just want to make sure you're starting with a lower amount of that because otherwise you're going to be working backwards. Let's just start with, I'll park this one for a second. Start with this one just to make sure we've got the right grind on it. And I try to move it left to right, and I flip the stone around occasionally. And what that does is it just makes the stone wear evenly. Okay, so let's take a baseline. There is the current condition of the blade. We'll just go until we have nice, even grind marks along the whole thing. And I'm applying medium pressure, but I'm really trying to let the stone do its job. trick here is to not let them get too far. If they never get too far gone in the first place, they're easy to fix. Okay, there's where we're going to leave off on that one. Let's move over now to the 1000 grit whetstone. And that is the red side on this one. The blade is going to start to look a little different here in a second. That slurry that's building up, it's a mixture of the stone and the metal, the water, and kind of that abrasive that's in there actually helps to sharpen the blade. So you really want that sloppy slurry on there. The nice thing about having in this little bucket is that I can't go off the back with it. And if I hit the front, it's soft plastic. I really like doing it in this bucket. It also holds the water. Quickly dunk the stone, flip it over, rinse it, dip the chisel edge in. Let's see how we're doing here. We're just starting to polish off the really sharp scratch marks. Let's keep going. So I could keep going and get that mirrored out. The more you polish out the tip of your blade, the harder the edge will be, and it'll hold it better. For what I'm doing, this is probably pretty good. Let's flip it over and let's do the 4000 grit. Put a little bit of a shine on it. Okay, so you'll see a difference here right away. It's really polishing out. So you see it doesn't quite cover the whole thing yet. But now we're going to put a little bevel on the very edge, so I really only got to get most of the way to that to get a pretty nice finish on this. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Now I just want to put a bevel on it. So to do that, like I was showing you, I'm just going to turn this dial one stop over, and I'll just leave it with the 4000 grit. And we'll just see what happens if we just do this for a few minutes. It just raises it like 1 degree, I think, or maybe half a degree. And this is what's going to put a really sharp edge on this. Sharper than I need. I'm going to feel bad abusing it on that deck when I'm done with this. So you can see it starting to form there, I think, at the very tip. A little difference in color. Okay, it's not perfect. Good enough is perfect in this case. What I'm going to do last step, I'm going to take it out of here, burnish the back flat like this, just to make sure that edge is really dialed in. So I'm just holding the chisel flat to this whetstone and just sort of swirling it around a little bit. Pressure with my finger on the tip, trying not to let it rock around at all. And you'll start to feel it kind of suction onto the stone as it really flattens out. Okay, so that kind of polished out the back just a little bit. And now the chisel should be pretty sharp. Yeah, not bad. And that took about, I don't know, 20 minutes. So there you go. Let's give it a try. All right, so we got our brand new edge on our chisel, and we want to take a look now and see how it's doing. So I've just been using it just a little bit to scrape up some of the last bits of wood remaining on the laminate, and you can see that's really starting to dig in now. And then over here where it looks like there's some old wood grain almost, you can just actually dig in and verify that no, that's just resin. So yeah, having a sharp chisel really does make a difference. Well, there we have it. All that rotten plywood has now been removed from the deck, and we are getting ready to start putting things back in, and all of that will be coming in a future episode. If you've enjoyed today's show and you'd like to show us some love, the best way to do that is to leave a like and a comment below. It does a lot of great things, including letting me know that you're enjoying this content. Now, if you're new to the show and you'd like to get caught up on all the activities, this is the playlist for you. Again, I'm really thankful that you came by to watch today, and we'll see you in the next one. It does also help this algorithm present this video to more eyeballs. Loud truck. Thanks.